Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Glad to have you guys here after a lunch session. Slightly tough one, but we'll try and make it interesting. We've got a big battalion of distinguished panelists. But the topic of discussion is an extremely well-timed one in lines with what's happening in the retail industry. Omni-channel, we're talking about differentiate and delight. So we've got quite a lot of representation from the brand side, and even within brands there's fashion, there's beauty, there's multi-category. In fact, there's F&B as well, and everyone's definition is different, and also the confluence of omni-channel versus hyper-local in certain categories. Like in F&B, there's nothing called omni-channel. It is hyper-local in nature because of the immediate demand nature. Also on the services side, we've got from payments to analytics to POS. So really glad to have such a kind of mixed representation. So maybe, if I could just take turns and start with Jaideep here on my left. So Jaideep, we'll just bring you in at this point. Your views on omni-channel and the pillars, how in your academic understanding of the definition of how it's evolving here in the current state, because I do know you're a keen reader of the market. So please, would love you to start and share your thoughts.
So, first of all, thanks, Naveen, and thanks, my fellow panelists. I'm really privileged to be part of this group, discussing about what omni-channel is or what omni-channel means. But I think what omni-channel is, we are really far from what omni-channel is. This gathering is also privileged because right now we are making omni-channel. So what omni-channel would be is a more pertinent question rather than what omni-channel is. So right now, omni-channel is being approached from two sides. One is traditional brick and mortar retailers trying to become an omni-channel. And that is where omni-channel push first started coming from, in the face of what is happening in e-commerce. And the second push is coming from e-commerce players who are trying to find profitability. Okay. And I feel we as brick and mortar retailers have a huge vantage point, but e-commerce players have really good technology depth, and they are moving in pretty fast to understand what omni-channel is and making it an omni-channel. Now, from a customer point of view, what is pertinent and what should be understood very well is, from customer point of view, what is omni-channel? A customer doesn't want to differentiate between whether it's your website or whether it's your store. They want to have a same experience. They want to have a seamless experience. So, as a customer, when we are in offices, we think of omni-channel differently, and when we are as a customer, we think of omni-channel differently. And some things are very clear. So if you have seen a product on the website, you want to find it at the store. If you have seen a product in the store, you won't want to find it in your website. If you have really bought the product, you would want to complain or give the feedback on the website itself and want it to be addressed. If you have seen the product once, you would want to pick up that product or suggest that product to your relative somewhere remote and get it delivered also. If you have purchased a product 6 months back, you would want to find out what looks best with that particular product, and you would want to pick up that from store. So all of these use cases are there, and they are emerging as customers are interacting with the websites, apart from the brick and mortar stores they have always been doing. So the point here is that omni-channel, what omni-channel means is still not decided. Jury is out open. And what omni-channel would be is something that we are making, and we have to understand, while we are doing that, we have to understand what is the most important experience for the customer and try to deliver it as clearly, as efficiently as possible.
So DK, thanks for coming in here and joining us here. From a SSIPL or a sports station perspective, it becomes more brand specific. I think we're still at a nascent stage of defining what omni-channel is overall. I'm sure you're at the cusp of that too. I think there's also some confusion that in India, it's more omni-fulfillment rather than omni-experience. And that's probably the natural progression. The availability is primary, and then the extension of the experience. So what have been, and I know that you've been championing this at SSIPL over the last year or two. Please share your thoughts.
Thanks, Naveen. And as you and Jaideep rightly mentioned, we are in a very nascent stage of omni-channel. What it started as an endless aisle, even if you have 1,000 square feet store or a 1 lakh square feet store, you can't display everything that you actually want to, or the entire collection that you have. So an endless aisle omni, which started initially a few years back, was actually fulfilling the needs of stockouts, color outs, or the range that is not available at that city location or for that particular store. And eventually and gradually multiple channels comes in. We had our own website, which was actually the entire website digital accelerated due to COVID. The need was arised because people were not stepping out, and suddenly you thought, wow, where we do sell, because stores are not open. And everyone started adopting the digital, the e-commerce, their own website. And during that same time, the e-commerce marketplaces, which are the leaders, duopoly of Amazon and Flipkart, they also integrated our retail stores, expanding their entire collection. Wherein when we as a brand, when we launched our product, there used to be an online product line, a retail product line, a different channel, different product line. These solutions helped us expose the entire product line on all the channels. That also helps us, because when one channel closed, there was a shocker. One day, we were announced from tomorrow there is a 14 days lockdown, and we had no other channel to sell. And suddenly those gates were open for other mediums which were there. Technologies was integrated. Catalogs were created because they were created for certain other businesses. The entire integration helped us seamlessly expose entire inventories on all the channels. Wherever the customer were able to come in, we were able to sell and cater to that customer. And on Jaideep's point, then comes in the omni. So multiple channels created suddenly, and then comes the need for creating an omni channel so that my customer can make a decision online, shop offline, or a decision offline and convert it online. I had to make sure the experience is same, the prices are same, his support, his return, his claims, all are seamless, and all the channels is being considered as one persona, whether he's shopping in various channels. And as you guys mentioned, it is evolving. It is still in nascent stage, and it will continue to evolve for some more time.
Thanks for sharing your thoughts. And in sequence, we'll pass it on to Pooja. In your category, how do you see this emerging? Because by itself, there's also a concept of dark stores. Customers are wanting as quick as possible fulfillment. I think Swaranji was also saying that, the quicker, the deliveries are, the lesser are the returns. I mean, in the beauty category, how feasible is moving towards omni-channel as fast as possible?
Yeah, hi everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Pooja Nagdev from Inatur, and in my category, which is a beauty category, for most of the people who don't know Inatur, we are into making beauty and skincare products. So it's very relevant. Omni-channel is something, Sephora was the one to start it worldwide. And, it's all about an experience. And earlier it used to be, one used to think that customer engagement is something luxury, It's no longer, when you are connected with your customer till the end of the cycle, and, there are referral programs, and you are guiding them how to select the right product, it's so much relevant. And as Dharmender said that suddenly when the pandemic came, so whoever, like we had a CRM system in place, whoever had these things that we had the DB that, okay, database was there. We could connect to our customers that time through SMSs and say, hey, we are open when the delivery is open, that yes, we can supply to you, and how can we fulfill your requirements? That really helped us out. Omni, for me, I mean, personally, is something that should be there. When we talk of a brand, it's a one brand, and it's a unified one integrity, right? So it's like seeing the brand as one, okay? So you may be picking it up from a retail store product, a Inatur product, which has a QR code which you scan and takes you to the website, the chatbot, or the webbot, or you are picking it up from the store. The fulfillment, when we have already invested into the stores, brick and mortar, we are right now running 5 stores. So when you already have that kind of thing, then it's good that the fulfillment can happen. Quick deliveries can happen. If there's a store in Mumbai, can send it out quickly to people in Mumbai, Bangalore. You don't have to fall back that, okay, all the orders have to come to one warehouse and then the logistics times will take longer. Again, when all the customer base, when the customer base is one, you're a customer who moves around all over India. We are not using this platform of omni-channel around the world. It's only, I'm talking pertaining to India right now. So if anyone shops anywhere in India, like from Bangalore, somebody is picked up and comes to Delhi store. So in the DB, we are able to see it. Then tomorrow that person calls up on the customer care and says, this is my mobile number, and that's the identity we have. And then we are able to track down, okay, these are the preferences. But yes, having said that, it is a long journey, and it has just started. It will be all robotized, and all these things would be, because when you are choosing, it's not fashion. For skincare, it is very much a need. You know, I have a concern and there is a product for that concern. The concern and the product stays stationary. So it's not something we are going to change every time. So I feel that it would be robotized soon, and we are working on it so that it is, the regimes and the proper way of directions to use and everything. There is no human interface, but then a person reaches to 1, 2, 3, 4 and a voice interface, and it guides the people how to use it. And that can happen scanning a QR code from a product. So this is how relevant it would be in future. But yes, it's a long journey, and I hope we see it happening in 22. Yeah.
So Anurag ji, I'm obviously aware that you've been spearheading the omni-channel initiative at Biba for a while now. Please enlighten us with your thoughts, and especially on the challenges side of it from the brand side, and how some of these have been encountered at your end.
Thanks, Naveen. Just to give a background, we are a very old customer on that Biba.in. We launched in 2015, right? It was premature at that time. Over a period of time, it got matured enough. So last, I think, a year and a half, we started that omni-channel journey. So then lot of insight has gone in based on, requirement analysis, customer feedback, so on and so forth. So like, just to give you a background, we are present across all channels, but initially we started with our own website, Biba.in, and our brick and mortar stores. So which is as of now around 500 plus. So how we track it is actually vice versa, right from the Biba.in platform also, we go to the omni-channel journey, and from stores also we come back to Biba.in. So it's a cycle actually. So whenever, let's say if a customer comes to Biba.in, so in case he is already registered and he is a regular customer, we based on the PIN code, identify what best delivery we can do in terms of number of hours. Standard delivery in metros, for example, is 24 hours. Can we make it for 8 hours or 4 hours and so forth? So based on this, we identify a nearest store available where we have normal stock plus additional stock for serving omni-channel customers. So accordingly, we normally pop up and says that this you will get the delivery in 6 hours. So this is another experience of customers. If he says, definitely they will relish on having a delivery of 6 hours, 8 hours, so and so forth. Another option could be, let's say if customer comes to my store, then he is not able to find the right size or maybe right color, which is already there in the catalog, which is at the store. He can always place a order which we call as home delivery, right? So we collect the order at the stores and ensure that that order get routes through the biba.in site and finally get delivered to the customer. Now, what actually, if you will ask me, as on date, omni-channel is in the making. It's not a true omni-channel as of now, because I had studied most of fashion retailers and in our segment. So some are at a very nascent stage, some are partially matured and some are mature, but it's not a perfect omni-channel. Reason being, there are challenges. For example, like challenges which are normally faced in the return cycle of the customers. So it's very difficult to ensure that you have a correct return path, right? And track the inventory and the source of the inventory. So for example, a customer comes to my store to return the, let's say, any garment, which is actually maybe ordered through my biba.in site or maybe from any stores across the country. So tracking that inventory and, ensuring on the backend side whether this inventory has to be kept at the store because it is normally a defect inventory, right? So normally, not Biba, all these fashion retailers are struggling and identifying how to handle this type of situation. That is one. Second is picking the inventory from the customer. If customer is not reaching out to your store, then it's a very long journey. Because if the inventory is picked, right, it is given to the respective location, maybe a warehouse, right? It lies there for days and days. It's a practically, then it's neither the inventory is not visible to you also, and you are not sure whether how to handle that customers. So we have a turnaround time of, let's say, 24 hours or 48 hours based on the request raised, right? Irrespective whether the inventory is defective or whether the inventory is actually part of our regular inventory for sellable, we issue a credit note, maybe from the store itself or from our own biba.in site, so that customer has a good experience. He is least bothered about, whether inventory is given to whom, whether to the stores or maybe to the e-commerce site or maybe to the logistic partner who picked the inventory. So we normally, as on date, irrespective of tech issues or maybe other issues which has to be settled down, we focus on the customer experience, so that customer doesn't have a bad experience. And as of now, if a customer posts anything in the social sites, right? So definitely it impact your brand, which is really not advisable. So we normally focus on customer experience, and yes, omni-channel is in the making right now.
Well, thanks for that. I think fairly well said. I think every brand has a different journey, different kind of challenges and different persona. I think there's no cookie cutter method of how to do it. Everyone has to live through it. But the one thing for sure, which is common from everyone, is if you keep the customer at the core, then the decision-making process basis everyone's business model will fall in place. While things are still in the making. So Neeraj, I'll just bring in Sandeep once. So the brand side is complete, and then three of you will keep it for the other side of the story. So Sandeep, in your context and F&B, I think with cloud kitchens and that entire piece, hyper-local and quicker deliveries, that just is a natural extension. There's no other way. And probably in the last 2 years, it only further pushed that case. I mean, what did you see from that side, and how is it different from what, let's say, other retailers are talking about specific to F&B?
Sure, I'll come to that. First of all, let me put forward my thoughts on the omni-channel. The term has been here for more than 10 years, I would like to believe. But the meaning of the term has evolved over the years. So just a couple of thoughts on that. So So initially when it started, you're right, it was multi-channel, but then customers felt the difference that, oh, I'm treated separately when I go to the online store, but while I'm in the physical store, I can't even talk about the products or the promotions that's available online. Then the entire, omni-channel thing started to figure out to give a uniform experience to the customer. So it started from the omni ordering first, so give a similar experience. Then it went to the omni fulfillment, where we're talking about, order online, pick in store, or research online, buy offline, or research offline, buy online. And then the extension went on and on. Now omni-channel is not about fulfillment and ordering only. Customers expect that my experience at XYZ platform I should get everywhere. For example, if I'm used to paying through a wallet and it's not present on your platform, the entire meaning of omni-channel is dissolved, because I want to pay through that wallet because I get a cashback, and it's not on your checkout page. And that's the reason largely companies are measuring this, dropout at the checkout, because your wallet was not available, and you want that payment method. Or the other extension is that I made a complaint online, but if I want to check the status of that complaint while I'm in the store, the store guy is not able to figure out, because again the systems may not be connected. So that's another reason that omni-channel is now meaning that you complained anywhere and you get the status update anywhere, whether it's your website or, some customers would write, I don't know whether that exists any longer, but earlier days people used to have a complaint register. A lot of companies have, a lot of brands have digitized, but still some brands do have it. And that is not going to go anywhere. If customer goes to a call center and says, I made a complaint, sir, what's the complaint number? There's no complaint number, because it was a physical register. So the omni-channel now translates into experience end to end. It also translates that I want a refund in not the mode that you decide, in the mode I decide. Because I paid you in that mode, I want refund in that mode. I paid cash, I want cash. You can't give me the back to account or some wallet points. Customer may choose. So that's, in my opinion, the omni-channel experience, that you come to any channel, you get fulfillment to any channel, but the experience has to be same, and it has to benchmark against the other brands who are redefining the consumer experience. People would say that, why don't you do it? Amazon does it, that brand does it, why can't you do it? Because they expect all the brands to catch up. Now the other part is that earlier brands used to decide, okay, I have decided to go online, I have decided to fulfill from offline. Now consumers are deciding that. They are writing these questions to your customer care service. Are you doing this? Are you doing this? So consumers are driving that behavior of the brands now. Consumer wants you to be present at WhatsApp as a channel. So you have to be there. If you don't decide to be there, you miss the bus. So now consumers want you to be present everywhere. So you have to be present everywhere. You have to provide similar experience, and you have to keep an eye open. You define your experience with the best in class. That would be the evolving meaning of the omni-channel. Now, coming to F&B business, two parts to it, because F&B, let's say it's hyper local, right? But offering a same taste of a, let's say, farmhouse pizza across length and breadth of the country means a very robust supply chain, primary as well as secondary. So for us, the supply chain comes into the play for this kind of fulfillment. Of course, quality control and all those things are in place. So that's one part. And the entire fulfillment has to happen in 30 minutes for most of the brands that we work for, largely Domino's. So that's another reason, you in those 30 minutes, the customer has to discover the product, order the product, apply the promotion, choose his or her favorite payment method, choose the delivery mode, it's delivery, dine-in, or pick up, carry away, and then get all the regular updates and then get it fulfilled. And if there is any post-order complaint, because food is a category where it can make and break, because you're hungry, you order something, you don't have that much of patience, you're a little intolerant at times. So if something has to be addressed, it has to be addressed within those 30-35 minutes, or maybe another 5-10 minutes after delivery, when a consumer chooses to reach out to you and make a complaint. And you have to make sure that next time when the same customer orders, you flash it on your kitchen screen that this customer had a complaint last time. Make sure you are being extra careful this time. Of course, you can offer discounts, you can offer cashbacks, you can offer a remake of the pizza. But then real win is that, next time when you order, A, you do it right, and B, you maybe, proactively ask, sir, after this order, you had a problem last time, but I hope we were able to fulfill it correctly this time. And this all has to be done irrespective. So a consumer may have ordered last time on your website or a mobile app, but this time the consumer has walked into the store, given your mobile number, you should be able to identify. And while you are taking the order, you should say, sir, were we able to address your concern last time, when we ordered through mobile app and there was a problem. That is the evolving meaning of omnichannel in F&B. And only difference I would say among other categories, the time window is 30 to 45 minutes, while in other categories, you may have slightly larger time, because there is a shipment, there is a return process. A customer is not so intolerant when it comes to apparel or other things. Of course, they can be, if it's a gift for somebody, they're ordering for a wedding or a birthday, they could be. But largely, I would say that's the reason we have to be extra sharp in this category.
Excellent. Thanks for those thoughts. Good to hear about another category and its challenges in the similar space. But I'd like to welcome our balance three experts on this from the other side of it, trying to enable a larger segment of brands with better solutions over the course. So we'd love to bring you in at this point, Neeraj. From an analytics perspective, I think with this entire shift towards omni-channel and every CXO really trying to figure out the pace and the right moves, the mapping of the customer journey, appropriately across channels for them to have better data-driven decision-making insights. How are you helping in that space? How do you see that panning out? What should they look for? What are the KPIs? And how can we power that move forward?
Thanks, Naveen. Good afternoon, all of you. If I have your permission, I'd just like to spend 2 minutes on the term omni-channel, right? So, from what I understand, the term omni, the etymology of the term omni actually stands for what we call all, right? So when we are saying omni-channel, loosely translated, it means all channels, right? And while I'm saying this, I'm going to extract myself out from being part of the retail industry. Let me first talk as being a customer to the retail industry. We all are customers to the retail industry. So from that point of view, again, a customer-centric view of what omni-channel should be is that, and again, the genesis of where omni-channel pervaded is just giving the customer the ability, or for a brand, to be present in all channels. This started decades ago, and that time it was the channel of, telesales, or you had these directory sales, for example. So they wanted brands who had offline stores to also be present on a call and order, right? And I'm talking much pre-e-com days. Omnichannel started then. All that it means for the customer is all channels. And for brands, I guess what it means is extension of all channels, providing inventory at all channels, providing the same experience at all channels, right? Providing the same delivery at all channels, providing the same payment options at all channels. So I think it's a much larger term. Everybody has covered this in various ways. And, I have some co-panelists who are going to talk more about that. So setting the term right, I think that's the genesis of omni-channel. I've been fortunate. I've worked with a lot of brands, national level brands, local brands. The smaller brands are the ones who find it even more imperative to get their omni-channel journey right as soon as possible. So for the larger brands, national level brands, is easier to be present locally across, let's say, pan-India. But for the smaller brands, I think the easiest solution for them to reach customers across India is the new digital wave, the e-com channel. So I'll give you a couple of examples that case studies where Omni has really helped some of my retail customers. So the first thing, I'll take an example of a national level brand or retailer who's into the beauty wellness segment. Their ask of us as a service provider to retailers was, let the customer get the same experience. we've all spoken about this. So it was a very generic ask, and they did not come to me with specifics. I was fortunate to be part of the brainstorming sessions with them to say, how do we provide what we call customer of one, right? So it was the experience of, like I said, providing the same merchandise, providing the same delivery, providing the same payment options, right? And the same redressal modes, so complaints as we commonly call it. What we generally did, and see, this is the benefit of the new digital medium of selling goods online. In an offline medium, a retailer captures the footprint of a customer only when a transaction happens, right? So in a store, if you walk in today, you spend 20 minutes in the store, you pick up a few things, look at it, probably see the price, put it back, and walk out without doing a transaction. While technology is still evolving to capture that, but 9 out of 10 retailers have no visibility about this customer who walked in and did not do a transaction. The difference on the digital side is you get to an e-com site of any of these brands or any retailer, right? Every move you make, I'll be watching you. I'm sorry. So that is the power of data. I think on the online channel, data gets captured, or in a way, your trend, your progress, your journey gets captured even if you do not do a transaction. So what retailers ask of people like us who provide them insights is, how do we marry the lack of data when a transaction does not happen offline with the abundance of data that we capture when transaction does not happen online? And that is what we are doing. I think Pooja rightly mentioned. Fortunately, telecom has progressed to a level where customers earlier used to be given a loyalty number. Now their phone number or the mobile number is their loyalty number, right? And it's more common to remember. So there has been a higher compliance of customers actually offering to identify themselves when they do an offline transaction. Earlier at the POS machine, if somebody asks you, are you a loyalty member? Yes, I am. What's your loyalty number? I don't remember. I don't carry the card. But today, the loyalty number is your mobile number. So it's very unlikely you'll forget that. I think the abundance of data that is captured is really what has caused the analytics side of omnichannel to bloom so much, because now we are serving I'll give you a few examples of KPIs since you asked me. We are serving the following kind of KPIs to our retailers in the common realm of what we call omnichannel, right? Things like, how often did the customer look at merchandise online, probably add it to the cart, and then aborted the cart? Okay, I'm not stopping here because this is common, everybody does it. But in the omni-channel context, what we further bring is, after abandoning the cart, which probably had 7 items in it, how many of those 7 items did that same customer go and buy in my offline store? So it is the combination of this data together which is enriching, right? And there are many ways to skin the cat here. What is the purpose? What is the importance? I think I won't spend time on it, but sure. It's an interesting facet.
Yeah, please. We'd love to bring the other 2 panelists in. So Mohit, you represent the payments aggregation space. So we've been on panels together in the past. Yeah. But to be honest, I think much before there was omnification of inventory or omnification of customer care, there was more innovation in omnification of payments across. And I'm sure, PayU and a few of the others led the way. What kinds of challenges and innovations in the payment space with UPI and wallets, etc., really picking up more resonance? Would love to have your thoughts on that.
Thanks so much. And I'll try to get around to answering the question. But before I do that, it's a post-lunch session, and my fellow panelists spoke about, those lovely words. What is that? Every move you make, I'll be watching you. And there's this great song from, I think, the 80s or 90s I don't want to sing the entire song right now, but some of you will know about that song. So let me tell you a story. And as every good story, it involves cats. This is about last year. My wife, and my two daughters, who we were all sitting and chatting. My wife wanted a vacation in Goa. This was right in between the first two waves of COVID. My elder daughter wanted some game called Minecraft. Some of you may have heard of it. And my younger daughter wanted a cat as a pet. Right? Very interesting. Now, 5 minutes later, on my wife and my phones, we got ads with Goa trips, with Minecraft, including some game I'd never heard of before, and cat food and pet shops, right? So people are already watching us, and what we say and what we do will come back. And you're already getting personalized attention from the world's leading tech players. Now, let me just take another minute and talk about the past. In times of conflict has when tech change has been the fastest, right? If you think about the Second World War, that's when you got things like radar, you got atomic power. If you think about the Cold War, that's when you got the internet or GPS, which is of course originally meant to help nuclear bombs find their way to your home. So right now, we don't have that kind of conflict. But think about what's happening today. We've already got driverless cars being piloted across the world. We've got space tourism. And we already have people who are watching you, right? So think about it. What's the greatest challenge that we face? All of us here. Omnichannel is going to happen. There is no two ways about it. And when it does, the question is, will a very large big tech player win, or will all of us win, right? And so therefore, there is no choice but for us, all of us, to think omnichannel. From a payments perspective, it's super, super easy, right? We already have the stacks. In many ways, I would say that the great steps taken both by regulators in India and by the fintech industry in India means that India is possibly one of the most sophisticated payment markets in the world. Pure play payments from an omnichannel perspective is very, very simple. Just three simple fundamentals. And they're all three I's, and that's invisible payments. Payments should actually not be even seen. It should just happen at the back end, supporting everybody else, right? It should be integrated with ERP companies like SayerLogic, such that it's not just that payments is broken from the act of commerce. It needs to be just purely integrated. And the third thing, which I believe is true, and that's why I hope all of you will show up at the stall which we have out there, is that payments is indispensable to commerce. And therefore, a couple of years back, I had a small team in PayU, and I renamed that team into Omnichannel Payments, because I knew that eventually this is going to happen. This future is already here upon us. Anuragji actually spoke about that. He thought about it many years back. And sometimes technology or customer behavior is not yet there with what we want to do in pure omnichannel, but that time is now coming, right? COVID has created this awareness among customers. More people are shopping both online or are going on offline and looking for contactless payments. And therefore, this loop is being created. Customer behavior is changing. So I think this is the time. From a payment product perspective, there are 10,000 products out there, right? As PayU, we also had started something called DaisyPay, which is a beautiful buy now, pay later product. And at the point of sale, what is the merchant looking for? They're looking for greater sales, ideally, ease of use, and that could include whether you're talking about returns or anything else, but basically is that payment should never be an impediment. A transaction should not fail. It should just happen seamlessly. And lastly is reconciliations with the backend. And that includes with your billing software, with your ERP systems, with your delivery systems. So I think we're already there. The tech stack is there. Now all of us need to just bring it together. And I think we're going to see so much of excitement over the next 10 years. Well, I'm still looking forward to my trip to space, and my youngest daughter is still looking forward to a cat. So we'll get there soon.
Sure. Thanks a ton. Last but not the least, would love to have your experience and expertise. I remember in a brief chat, you're talking about the pillars of omnichannel. So specifically, it would also kind of probably serve as an overall recap for everyone. It'll help summarize and shorten my end note here. You talked about the pillars of omnichannel and the role of brands versus stores in the D2C growth story. If you could share your thoughts in 5 minutes, I think we've got about 5 minutes left. We'd love to have you leave us with those thoughts.
Sure. Thank you very much, Naveen. Say, on the omni-channel says first of all, I would like to start, there's only one world. There's no two worlds. So it's a online world and the offline world. it is, these worlds are created by our minds. But in customer's mind, there's only one world. He's buying only product. It's not say like considering whether I'm buying from the online or from the offline store, right? So the customer need convenience, right? Customer need experience, right? So if I say, like, take example of experience, the Amazon is considered as the one of the best company in the world. Like, they are giving the experience, right? And even they are opening stores because customer need experience, right? And see, it's a high time, like, we as a tech companies or the retail community, we should think about the cutting the online and offline transaction mechanism, right? So there, what is the customer journeys? Whether he's searching online and picking, say, like buying online and picking up from the stores, buying online or ship from the stores. And more, say, like when we talk about there is a lot of stores that we implemented, say, like a number of companies of the endless aisle, right? So from the endless aisle, like people are saving 75% lost sales, right? They are recovering. So this is the actual experience which customer wants, right? And this one, I should say, like, when you want to be omni-channel, what are the main pillars from where we need to work? Any company want to be omni-channel. So there's unified PIM, it's a product information management, unified customer. See, whether a customer buying online or offline, it is a one customer, his points, say, like accumulated, and wherever or whichever the channel he want to redeem it, whether it from the social commerce or from the online or from the brick and mortar stores, he can do that. And our inventory should be unified, whether, say, like we are on the marketplace, whether we have our own e-commerce or my brick and mortar stores, right? It should be unified. The same inventory should be everywhere. And fourth, the last, like the supply chain and reverse supply chain. See, if I have bought something online, I should have the right to return at the store. And if I didn't like anything, don't like anything at that store, I should have the credit note from A store to B store. I can redeem that credit note. And in the similar way, if I bought something from the store, I can return online also. So this is the basically main four pillars, right? And when I talk about D2C, so there's the brands, and say, like, what is the brand and what are the stores? See, for brands are there to bring the orders, and stores are the fulfilling centers. When we say it's actually when somebody orders and that is fulfilled the same day or the next day, your returns will come down from 35 to 5%. It is, say, like there are so many brands which have done this one, right? And their returns have came down drastically. So this is on, like, what I'm saying.
Thanks a ton for them and some inciting insights. We did talk about, from a metric perspective, how probably omni-channel enablement could reduce returns as well. There's obviously the other side of it where the omni-channel inventory has to be rock solid to ensure there are lesser cancellations at source. There's a lot of technology that needs to be put in place with people like Anurag, etc. are obviously spearheading. We're out of time. I'm sorry we can't come back to you again with the next round of questions. If anyone here has more questions, I'm sure all of us are available outside for a short while to answer any of them. For any further one-on-ones, please feel free to catch any one of us. As a last note, I would say that it was great to hear that the customer continues to be at the core. convenience, personalization, more marketing sharpness, improving the experience with an eye on analytics and data-driven decisions. Thank you, everyone, for sharing your great views. Lovely to be in touch again.
Thank you, everyone. Can we have a big round of applause, please?